People with psychopathic friends? Why are you friends with them? My neighbor Grant has never felt fear, and it saved my daughter's life. I found out about his condition the weirdest way possible, through our shared fence. I was grilling burgers on a Sunday afternoon when I heard this calm voice next door say, "Your roof is on fire." No panic, no urgency, just stating a fact like he was commenting on the weather forecast. I looked up and sure enough, flames were spreading from my chimney. Black smoke was billowing out and embers were starting to catch on the shingles. While I'm screaming and fumbling with my phone to call 911, Grant's already climbed onto my roof with a garden hose, casually stomping out embers like he's putting out cigarettes. When the fire department arrived 10 minutes later, they found him still there, methodically checking every corner for hot spots. The fire captain climbed up and asked if he was okay, and Grant just shrugged and said, "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" That's when his wife Nina came over and explained he has a rare neurological condition where his brain doesn't process fear at all. Dangerous situations that would send most people into fight or flight mode are just puzzles for him to solve calmly. She told me he'd been diagnosed as a kid after walking across a frozen pond that was clearly cracking. When other kids screamed warnings, he just kept going because the concept of danger didn't register. Doctors ran every test imaginable before concluding his amygdala simply doesn't fire fear responses. 6 months later, my 2-year-old Isla somehow got through the child safety gate and into our pool while I was inside grabbing her snacks. I came out to find Grant fully clothed in the water, holding her up with one arm while treading water with the other, completely calm. While I'm having a complete meltdown, hyperventilating, and shaking, he's already turned her on her side so she could cough up the water she'd swallowed. Then he hands her to me like it's the most normal thing in the world and says, "She's fine, might want to check that gate latch though." Later that evening, after Isla was safely asleep, I went over to thank him properly. I asked how he stays so composed when everyone else would be panicking. He looked at me confused and said, "What's the point of panic? It just makes everything harder to think through." That's when it hit me. While fear protects most people, it also paralyzes them when action is needed most. Grant doesn't have that limitation. The more I got to know him, the more I understood how his brain worked. He told me about the Grante he was hiking alone and stumbled across a mother bear with cubs. While any normal person would freeze or run, he just slowly backed away while maintaining eye contact, following textbook air safety protocols he'd memorized. Another Grante, he witnessed a car accident on the highway. While other drivers slowed down to gawk or kept driving, Grant pulled over, assessed the situation, and started directing traffic around the wreckage until paramedics arrived. No hesitation, no second guessing. Last week, there was a gas leak on our street from a construction accident. Emergency crews were evacuating the entire block, telling everyone to get at least 200 yards away immediately. While everyone else was grabbing keys and running to their cars, Grant walked house to house, making sure all the elderly neighbors got out safely. I watched him calmly knock on Mrs. Connors' door, explain the situation without alarming her, then help her gather her medications and cat before walking her to safety. He did the same for 3 other houses while the rest of us stood around feeling helpless. When I mentioned how brave he was being, Grant just looked confused again. "It's not brave if you're not scared," he said. "I just saw people who needed help." The guy who can't feel fear spent his evening protecting people who were terrified. That's when I realized something profound. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's what you do when fear would stop everyone else. Grant doesn't choose to be brave. He just chooses to help when help is needed. Most people think his condition makes him dangerous or untrustworthy. They assume someone without fear must be reckless or impulsive. But I've learned the opposite is true. When you can't feel fear, every decision becomes purely logical. Grant researches everything, follows safety protocols religiously, and thinks through consequences more carefully than anyone I know. He has to, because he can't rely on gut instinct to warn him about danger. The irony isn't lost on me that the most fearless person I know is actually the safest person to be around in a crisis.